They do have their analysis back from the photometrics on the downtown lighting. That report and the cost estimate, I anticipate getting that sometime this week from them. So at the next council meeting, I should be able to kind of tell you what that looks like. But if you recall, their proposal was just to change out the heads, and I think they've got a specific wattage. I think they said somewhere around 70 or 75 watts is what we needed to have there. And I think the actual heads reflect light maybe back down onto the sidewalk and surrounding areas. So I'll be happy to share that though when I get the full report. And that's pretty much it right now. I think we're as close as we can be to completing our goals. The city's, in other words, the city and the staff members don't have any outstanding items. It's with outside agencies at this point to get the other quarterly goals done.
Jonathan, on the pole lights downtown, Alabama Power said they would not allow us to run our sprinkler pipe up the poles as they are. Have we resolved that?
We've pulled the lines. Well, maybe not pulled the lines. That's probably misstating. We've turned off the water and cut the water service to the poles. It was out of code. Once we get the proposal back, if you decide you want to keep some sort of water running downtown, we will evaluate some different alternatives. It may mean that we have to run something on that.
Exposed up the pole?
Yes, sir. But we'll come up with a solution if that's what the council would like us to do.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, any other questions regarding our second quarter goals?
I have a question. I almost dread to even ask about the TAP project sidewalks. It says 30 days. Is that start in 30 days? I don't have a high expectation, so I just want to know what it is.
So AlDOT has approved the design. If you recall, at some point between when we applied for the grant and when the design was done, Alabama Power came along Daleville Avenue and relocated some utility poles. And so right now, there's still some dialogue going back and forth with Alabama Power and the engineer to figure out if they need to move the poles again, who's going to pay for that, or do they need to redesign the sidewalk? And to my knowledge, that has not been resolved, right? So that's where we're at on that process.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions regarding our second quarter goals? All right, thank you. Remember, we will meet at 4 o'clock on January 2nd.
Yes, sir.
Right, our 2 weeks from tonight, to discuss our third quarter goals. All right, if you will turn with me in our regular meeting packet, we'll discuss our agenda for tonight. All right, well, of course, we'll start out with our roll call, opening prayer and pledge of allegiance, and approve our agenda. Then move on to the consent agenda, which consists of work session and meeting minutes from June 4th, our contract billings for the rec center for Whaley Construction, our multipurpose rec complex for Beasley, and the new pickleball courts for Beasley. Then we've got Poly Incorporated invoices for the multipurpose rec complex and the Highway 167 North utilities relocation. And then an invoice from CDG for the Rec and Aquatics Center for Geotech Services. Any questions, concerns on the consent agenda? All right, next item. Next couple of things are presentations. So we've got a presentation of certificate for the mayor. Then we've got a street closure request for Legacy Farms community event. Chief Moore, you up to speed on the Legacy Farms? All right. Well, between now and our regular meeting, will you look at that permit and make sure there's no? It's just a Legacy Farms community has requested to address the council to obtain a permit to close Homestead Way, which I believe is down in a neighborhood. It's not a thoroughfare. but that's July 20th, from noon until 8 p.m. for a community event. We can wait for your report in the regular meeting. Next item is a permit street closure for Main Street Mardi Gras. These are coming from Main Street Enterprise, so that's a Mardi Gras event on Main, a Mardi Gras ball. You can see there the dates, Saturday, February 1st. You up to speed on that one, Chief? Yes. So you're good with that? Okay. Anything we need to know, Mariah?
The only thing I was going to mention is that the Railroad Street closure is specifically earlier at noon in order to set up the tent on time, but I have notified the Rawls Restaurant, and we're working together on that, so there's no opposition from them.
Okay, thank you. Any questions on those street closures? All right, then we'll have privilege of the floor and staff reports, and moving on to old business, we've got the 3 public hearings, which are all related. We talked about that in our previous work sessions. Any questions on those, or y'all just want to wait for the public hearings? Everybody's up to speed on that. Then we've got a Unity Fiber Gulf Co. franchise agreement. Jonathan, I've got a question on this. It may not be for you.
Yes, sir.
I know we've learned a lot about franchise agreements in the previous few years, or at least how these franchise agreements might allow these utilities to come in and use our right of way. Have we contemplated making any changes based on some lessons learned the last couple of years?
We have, Barry and I have actually discussed within the franchise agreement, and I'll let Ashley tell you what she's got here and drafted, but one of the issues is that we're not notified oftentimes until someone's in a particular area doing work. So we had discussed at one point looking at permitting to see that, but there's also some pushback with that, obviously, with the utility companies. Like, sometimes it's an emergency, right, and they need to get in there and work, and they don't have time to get a permit. Somebody's power goes out, for instance, and they need to be restored.
Right, but that doesn't fit that's not what we're getting problems about.
It's not, and I will say that in these instances, these are probably once in a lifetime problems that we're having. Like, right, once the fiber's laid, you typically don't have, and it's just a new thing. Probably, I wasn't here when they put telephone lines in or gas lines in around the city, but I imagine those kind of same growing pains happened.
Right.
So I'll let Ashley tell you what's actually in the contract that she's reviewed.
Good evening. Just so that you guys know, this is actually a company in 2018, council signed a franchise agreement with Southern Lighting, and the Unity Fiber Gulf Co. actually acquired Southern Lighting. So it's not necessary, it's a new franchise per se because we have a new name, but it's the same group that we've been working with. And this group particularly, they are required to obtain, as Jonathan mentioned, required permits and easements before commencing any type of construction. Our city engineer has the ability to go in and inspect and improve. So I feel like with this franchise agreement, you do have some of the parameters in that you guys wanted. But again, this is somebody that has been working with us before, and I don't know of any problems with this particular group.
Okay. All right, any other questions?
No, I'd just be concerned on tearing up yards like we had before. If we can lay that to rest, that, try to lay it out like sod or whatever, so that when they come back, they can put it back instead of hodgepodge and putting grass. That was the biggest complaint I got from a lot of folks in my district was my yard's been torn up and it doesn't look the same. And then, of course, several water lines were broken and you know.
And
those kind of things.
they are supposed to restore, patch, grade, any other reasonably necessary, and anything else reasonably necessary to repair the land. So I feel like that is something that we can control with this agreement.
Thank you, Ashley.
Sure.
And did you all mention something about like notices as to when they'll be doing work?
They
Like
are,
maybe a sign in the, I think with some of the issues that we had last time, people weren't even aware, you know, that their street was up next, for instance, or their yard was gonna be torn apart and they come home from work and there it is. So
right.
I mentioned something about that, I believe, at a work session before about us
They-
requesting that.
And they are required to give notice. Sorry, I'm looking for particular. They are required to cause minimum interference with the rights and reasonable convenience of property owners. So they are supposed to do things to notify the property owners, in my opinion. And again, they're going to be coming through the city building permitting process. So our city engineer will know what's going on and when, so that we can help with that problem and mitigate that factor.
Any other questions? All right, thank you. Then we'll move on to new business, which is to introduce some planning commission recommendations. Those will just be introductions. We'll read those later. Then introduce the same ordinances for those recommendations. That's, I think they're all related. That's the Saunders Family Trust Rezone 1, annexation and zoning, Saunders Family Trust, then the Saunders Family Trust Rezone 2. Then we will amend.
Counsel?
Yes, go ahead.
So I just spoke with the developer, and they are asking for ordinance 06-1824A and 06-1824B to be pulled from the agenda.
Okay. If y'all will scratch through those, and when we introduce the, so that's A and B, right? We'll leave the first one?
Yes, sir. The first one with the 5.08 acres of land will be the one that remains. The other two will be.
So I would assume since the planning commission sent the recommendations over, we should still read those recommendations. Would that be your opinion, Ashley?
I don't think it would hurt to go ahead and do it.
Okay. Yeah, and then just don't introduce the two ordinances that they've requested being pulled. Okay. All right. Any questions on that? Of course, we'll have a public hearing at our second meeting in July on that first ordinance. All right. Next item is to amend the employee classification plan for athletic supervisor. Who wants to update us on that? Is that you, Billy, or Blake?
Good evening, Council. As we continue to organize and plan ahead for our new recreation facility, with our athletics program growing, our youth athletics growing already, I can tell you baseball and softball just this past season that ended, we're up over last year's numbers already. And moving forward in this new facility, we'll have other opportunities to present new sports and adult sports. So to kind of help alleviate in our athletic department as we continue to grow, we'd like to eliminate the gym supervisor and restructure that position into an athletic supervisor role. This should zero out and make no changes to what we already have budgeted in.
Any questions of Blake on that? All right, thank you, Blake. And we've got a grant of additional funds to the Public Building Authority.
So obviously, the Public Building Authority is who is doing the renovations at City Hall. The Public Building Authority, I think we were budgeted somewhere in the neighborhood of $8.5 million for that project initially. This change order specifically references some additional required equipment for the E911 and dispatch. And so we anticipate those funds to come out of E911. But we do need to fund, Public Building Authority has no funds or funding mechanism to generate funds other than the lease that they would have with the city. So really, I think from the city budget perspective, this would be neutral, but we do need to get authorization to do so.
Now, the last E911 board meeting, which I believe was 2 weeks ago, didn't we approve the transfer of those funds?
We did.
Yeah.
I wasn't here at the last.
Okay, that's right.
So,
Yeah. So we've taken care of that piece. Now we just need to grant the funds to the Public Building Authority.
yes, sir.
Got it. Any questions on that? Barry?
Yeah, I just want to remind you that we had $300,000 in the E911 funds that you transferred from the E911 over to the city. And then there's an additional $100,000, which the 300 plus the 100 makes that $400,000 number that you see in front of you. There's actually two things. The $300,000 for the E911 has to do with, mostly to do with electrical changes in the dispatch area to get them compliant with their requirements. New generator, they had to have gas backup. We had to bore the parking lot, put a gas tank in. A lot of electrical requirements make up that $300,000, and then the $100,000 that's there that's included in this change order request includes logistic changes like the bathroom trailer that was purchased to be used for the city employees that were there, along with the construction trailer and some items like that.
Any other questions for Barry on this change order? All right.
Total with that, sir, is like, we had 7.8 in the Public Building Authority contract, and with this, it brings us to 8.2. So we're still under that 8.5 number that we originally talked about.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Next item is granting of funds to the ID board.
So again, as I spoke about in our quarterly goals, I think the council wished to consider purchasing property independent of Project Panama. There were roughly 296 acres along to the north of Moats Road that 5 different property owners had. We were subsequently notified that the ID board was awarded a seeds grant of $5.7 million to close on that grant on the 27th of June. They will need the match money. The ID board will need the match money for that. We do now anticipate it exceeding $3.05 million. However, I anticipate it to be several $100,000 less than that. But the way that the acreage is divided amongst the 5 property owners, we won't really know until we get the final closing documents prepared. And so what I mean by that is, 10 acres of frontage on 84 might be $20,000 an acre. It might be $10,000 an acre for land further back. But we're not 100% sure yet if that's 10.01 acres or 10.1 acres. And so if there's any fluctuations in that, we just wanted to have a number that we wouldn't have to come back to the council for when that. I anticipate it being closer to, in aggregate, somewhere around 2.8, 2.9 million.
Gotcha. Any questions on that? So we're not going to transfer excess funds. You're just getting permission to
Transfer up to.
the 3.05. Got it.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's the way it's worded, is up to. So we'll only transfer the funds that are the specific amount that's needed.
Right, that's requested on the closing documents from the attorney.
Gotcha. All right. Everybody good? All right, next item are the FY 2024 budget amendments.
You have those in front of you, maybe. Really, are there multiple? It should be a resolution to amend the budget for just under $100,000. Is that right?
Let me find a copy of
90.
resolution. Which one is that? C. So it's amended revenues, the sales tax is 100,000, and the amended operating expenditures, the administration contract services of 550,000, and the total amended additional projected
Because you did it on the line
expenditures
item. You did it.
of 650,000.
Yeah, so it's roughly about a $100,000 increase there, in order to basically get us to where we need to be in our HR roles. If you recall, we did an HR audit after our last HR director left, and one of the recommendations that came out of that was to automate several of our processes that we're currently doing, to include time and attendance, and integrate those with Munis. So I think Councilman Paget was on one of the calls that we had as we discussed those options. This roughly $100,000 will allow us to purchase the software we need and also get training for our employees that will utilize the system, and it will be integrated as part of our Munis platform.
So what's you keep saying 100,000, what's the administration contract services of 550?
That was the former budget, I believe.
Okay, so we're taking the budget from 550, that line item from 550 to
550 to
650?
600. Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. And then there's an additional $100,000 in sales tax revenues that we're matching that with.
Right, to
balance
that's an
it.
account, yeah. That's
Yeah.
something Leanne made sure we had to do.
All right. Any questions on that? Okay. Next item is to authorize the mayor to execute a trademark sublicense agreement with Main Street, Alabama.
This is actually through Main Street America. It's the ability to utilize their logo in our promotional items. It's the same sublicense agreement we agree to every year, so nothing's changed since last year.
All right. Any questions? Next item is to authorize the mayor to execute an agreement with Tyler Technologies for HR resources software system. Is this what we just talked about?
This is the reason for the budget amendment.
So this is the $100,000
Yes, sir.
purchase. All right, any questions on that? Next item is Pike Regional Child Advocacy Center. Police chief's going to execute an agreement with them. The Pike Regional Child Advocacy
Yes, sir.
Center.
It's something we
agreement.
do every year. The Pike Regional Advocacy for Children is another avenue that we have that we can use to assist in child crimes. And it's just an agreement that we have. We sign a MOA every year saying that we'll use them and they'll assist us when we need them.
Got it. Any questions of Chief on that? All right, thank you. And we got a request to resurface tennis courts out at Donaldson Park.
Yes, sir. Over there at Donaldson Park and tennis courts, last time they were resurfaced back in 2019. Based on the court surface that we have is a premier court, where it's an overlay of a real thin rubberized type court. It helps with maintaining no cracks, and then we put that in about 15 years ago. So for us to keep up the warranty on it, and plus also due to the abundance amount of pickleball play that we had to temporarily move over there when we tore down the courts over at the rec center before we built the new pickleball courts, there was a lot of wear surface on it. So basically it's a thing is that the 5-year plan we need to resurface the courts plus the extra wear that was created through play of pickleball courts.
And this gets them looking back like new just about?
Yes, this will put them back in and should hold us out for another 5 years, hopefully 6. So.
Got it. Any questions, Billy, on the tennis court? All right, next item is to request permission to purchase an electronic scissor.
Yes, this is a scissor lift that we will be purchasing for the new rec center. So whenever we need to make anything we need inside to get up to the higher height of the building facility. And this is a budgeted item that we had prepared for.
All right, any questions on this scissor lift? All right, then the last item are some annual bid requests for preventative maintenance on HVAC, pest control, and veterinary services. I believe pretty self-explanatory here.
Yes, sir. We just do an annual contract that renews every so many years. It's time for those contracts to come back out, to go out for solicitation, so that we have those as on-call services for the city moving forward. It's just a repeat of what we've done in the past, sir.
All right, any questions of Barry on those three items? HVAC, pest control, and vet services? All right, thank you, Barry. So that's all of the agenda. Everybody good with that, with those? Of course, when I'll request a motion, somebody needs to make that motion to approve as submitted with those two changes. We're going to delete 061824A and 061824B. Other than that, everything's good. All right, next item is a briefing on public transit, which is something we have requested to happen this quarter. What are we, about a year in, Jonathan? So we're about 3 quarters in?
Yes, sir. A little about 6 months in.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council.
Good evening.
My name is Mike Crittenden, and I currently serve as the Director of Wiregrass Transit. And I'm here today to give you an update, of course, on public transportation and enterprise. Okay, just to start off a little bit of background. The program did begin back on October 2nd of 2023. The type of service we run is basically, we refer to it as demand response, which means you call today for a ride tomorrow. It's open to everyone, all members of the general public. There's no trip prioritization based on destination or trip purpose. So it's basically whatever your purpose, wherever you need to go, you call and schedule your trip, we'll take you. All the vehicles are equipped they're all ADA accessible, and we serve all locations within the city limits of Enterprise. Okay, the current operation, the staffing levels, we currently have 1 assistant director, 2 dispatchers, and 5 drivers. When the service first commenced back in October, we had 1 dispatcher, 3 drivers, and the assistant director. So the staffing levels have grown since we started. The current fleet consists of 6 vehicles, 4 vans, and 2 minibuses. When we first commenced again, there were just 3 vehicles. So the vehicle fleet has grown as well. The system is funded through a combination of funding sources, with the primary source being through a grant application that we submit to Alabama Department of Transportation. And we're going through the application process now and for FY25, and we'll be submitting that application on July 31st of this year. Enterprise's projected budget for FY25 is $454,518. That's about a 10% increase over where your current budget is. The current enterprise contribution is $150,000, and we don't expect that to change as we go into FY25. And the enterprise contribution is a combination of cash as well as in-kind, because you do provide office space and parking for the service. So like I said earlier, the other funding sources is federal funds through our grant application, passenger fares, which we're anticipated maybe about $15,000 in passenger fares this current year. And we have contract revenue, which basically is, right now, we have one dedicated contract with Pilgrims, and Pilgrims pays 100% of the 100% of the allocated cost of that operation. So we're looking at about $57,000 in revenue coming from Pilgrims. That money is used as, contract revenue is used as local match money, which will allow us to have access to an equal amount of additional federal money if the system continues to grow. Next slide. Of course, the rates are still, and this is what the public doesn't see all of the things we do to make the program run successfully from a financial standpoint. They know that they pay $3 for a one-way ride, and that's anywhere in the city limits, and they pay either by cash, vouchers, or credit and debit cards. Just a quick ridership summary. Again, you began in October of last year, and these numbers for quarter three go through. They're through last Friday, actually. You can see the quarter one had operated 59 days with an average daily ridership of about 20, which is what we anticipated actually when we started the program. Quarter two, we're at 29, and with one more week to go in quarter three, we're still at 29. Now, I can get in more detail with like month to month. These are just quarterly averages. For example, there's been a couple of months, like the month of February, we was up to actually, the month of February had about over 600 rides, and the average was about 33 per day during that period of time. So what we're finding is, next slide. What we're finding is the primary reason for people scheduling trips is basically employment and health care right now. That's the majority of the trips. And again, that's the whole purpose of the system, is to be able to provide, next slide, be able to provide alternative transportation to individuals that otherwise don't have the transportation available for them. And of course, again, access to jobs and essential health care, those are the two primary trip generators at this point. And let's see, just a couple of other things I want to throw out there is in terms of community outreach and public relations, we do participate in, for example, we participated with the senior luau just for information sharing with the colleges, assisted living centers. We are engaged with DHR providing, with the DHR jobs program, providing rides for individuals to work. I've already mentioned Pilgrims. There's some initial talks going on now with a possible run to Wayne's Farm as well. And we're probably looking at having some type of relationship with the Veterans Home once it opens up. So our greatest challenges right now is basically to try and keep enough staff, because we have had some turnover, but one of the main challenges is trying to keep good qualified people for the driving and dispatching positions. And I think that because we only operate within the city of Enterprise, those are some challenges for other people, but there is opportunity to expand. If we were at 100% capacity right now, or full capacity, we could easily transport up to probably 50 people a day at the same budget level that we're at now. So there is room for growth. We haven't made it through the first fiscal year yet, but I think that we're on target to see continued growth and increases in ridership. And with that, that concludes my presentation. And if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them at this time.
Any questions for Mr. Crittenden? All right, thank you. It's good to see progress on that. Thank you for all your work.
Thank you.
All right, was that all on that, Jonathan? Did you have any feedback?
Yes, sir.
All right, next item is the city cemetery.
Okay, so council members, over the last, I guess, year, And most recently, last week, I've received a couple of phone calls regarding our city cemetery, as well as had a meeting with Billy Powell, Tammy Doer, and Mayor Cooper 8 or 9 months ago. And we met with folks from the Pea River Historical Society, as well as some of the folks that help maintain the city cemetery. The city does not own the city cemetery, even though a lot of people think that we do. And the funds that had been left in the care of a trust to maintain the cemetery, they used to get donations, and apparently somebody left a fairly sizable one at some point. But those funds are almost depleted. And there are fewer and fewer volunteers to go out there, and so they contract out a lot of the grass cutting and edging and maintenance. And so we think that number is somewhere in the neighborhood of $15,000 a year that they spend to do that. At some point, whether it's next week or 5 years from now, at some point it's likely that those funds will be depleted, and the city cemetery will likely not have anybody to maintain it. And so I bring that up to you to kind of talk about in future budget years what role the city might have in that. People that I've talked to obviously think that the city should have a role in it. And so I've told them that I would bring this up to the council at a future work session, and kind of get that in the works for potential future budgetary considerations.
So, I mean, do you want us to discuss this tonight, or you just want to get it on our radar?
Well, I wanted to put it on your radar, specifically as budget hearings come up in the next couple of months. But really, I'd like to hear if you would like me to continue to engage in further dialogue with folks about what role the city might have in this, or is the council's appetite for this non-existent? What else would you like to hear about, and what information would you need in order to make
I
an
remember
informed
us
decision?
having a discussion about this months and months ago. Take on the city cemetery, is that going to obligate us with taking on any other cemeteries?
Yeah, and I don't think legally it would obligate us. And I if it were up to me, I would not recommend that the city directly participate in maintaining. In other words, get Parks and Rec or city staff to maintain that property. I think a more accurate use of if it was determined that that is a concern for a blighted area in town, that we should find a partner like Pea River Historical Society or somebody to fund them, to allow them to go out and hire a contractor or do the work themselves, or whatever that looks like, in order to maintain that. But I don't think from a legal perspective, I know our city attorney's here, but if we did something like that, I don't think we would obligate ourselves to do that for others.
Thank you.
So when you say take on, it was presented to you that we should, what is it that they want us to take on? Maintenance, upkeep, or just ownership?
Yeah, general
what
maintenance
degree?
and upkeep. So, and I think that was twofold. So if they are truly down to a handful of people that even go out there to try to keep it in some repair, that's a problem. And they've mitigated that problem to some extent by contract labor. So they hire somebody to come out and cut the grass and weed eat, edge, those kind of things. But they no longer have a funding mechanism. It was not established in a perpetual trust. And anyway, there's a lot of history that goes behind that. The records were lost in a flood in Elba at the courthouse in 1929. So there's not a real clear delineation on whose problem this could be. And so, but ultimately, I think, people that live in Enterprise often look to the city as, you know, that if it starts getting overgrown or not maintained to an aesthetically pleasing standard, I do believe it's going to come back to the council in some form or fashion.
Yeah, I mean, at some point, when all other avenues are exhausted, it's going to be the city's problem. Whether that's a legal definition of a problem or not, it's still going to be the city's problem. I think, I mean, do we want a blight on the north end of our central business district where you've got weeds growing 4 feet tall? And I think our citizens are probably going to expect that we maintain it in some acceptable state of repair. That's just my hunch.
I agree with you.
Yeah, I do too.
Okay.
But I do appreciate Eugene's question of, you know, what other, and maybe we can discuss this in our budget hearings, but what other potential liabilities are there out there? I'm not aware of any other large private cemeteries. I think the others are, I can't even think of any large church cemeteries in town.
Most of them aren't, there's no question of ownership.
Yeah.
And that's what we have in this case is, you know, apparently deeds were sold or burial plots were sold to individual folks back in the early 1900s and again in the, I guess as late as the 80s. And a large portion of that cemetery, nobody knows who owns it and nobody's claiming ownership. Nobody's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the newer cemeteries like Meadowlawn, you know, they're more modern and are required to have some sort of perpetual endowment, or that's probably not the right word, but
They are. They have a lot more regulations were passed over the years.
Yeah.
So places like Meadowlawn do have certain standards that they're held to and have to have certain endowments or trusts set up to maintain the property.
Okay. So you're not asking for action on this?
Just wanted to make sure that if we kept having these dialogues that, you know, I wasn't wasting.
Yeah, I do like the idea of keeping the actual work at arm's length, you know, do it through an already existing appropriation, just maybe a line item for the care and maintenance of the cemetery, you know, but doing it through a third party. I think that is smart for multiple reasons.
Okay.
Anything else on that?
No.
All right, let's talk about the downtown project. Oh, I'm sorry. Board of Adjustments, Jonathan. Real quick, update us on that.
So as we look through the records, you recall Warren Bowron was moved from the supernumerary seat into an actual voting board member for the Zoning Board of Adjustments at one of the last council meetings. Because of that, there was a vacant seat in the supernumerary role. Jody Linton had, I guess, rolled off as a supernumerary based on the last appointment schedule. And so to fill that slot, obviously someone would need to be nominated. But I did talk to Jody and he was willing to serve in that role as supernumerary if he were asked to serve again. So that would be my recommendation since he's already been through the training. And, you know, I think in this case what happened was we reappointed someone not understanding, make it on me, not understanding that they were in a supernumerary position where they should have rolled into a seat and took somebody off a supernumerary that should have otherwise been, had the opportunity to be reappointed if the council deemed fit.
So is everybody okay keeping Jody Linton on? He wants to continue to serve. Okay, so we'll, you know, our standard practice is to, you know, state those nominations or potential nominations, and then at the following meeting to get that on the agenda and make that appointment. So Beverly, if we could just get that on our July 2nd agenda.
Okay.
All right. Now we can talk about the downtown project.
Main Street Enterprise Design Committee is interested in starting a bench sponsorship program. A couple weeks ago, I sent out all the information on it as well as kind of a draft of what that might look like. But before we moved forward, I wanted to just confirm that there weren't any questions or concerns about it. The idea would be that businesses or even individuals or nonprofit organizations could sponsor a bench at a one-time flat rate for the life of the bench, and they receive the plaque on the bench downtown, and it helps us fulfill the master furnishing plan that we developed. So each of these benches would be placed in areas that are already agreed upon by the engineering department. So the idea is just to cover the cost of the bench, not really to make money off of it, but to just find a way to raise the money to pay for them. Are there any questions about it?
Yeah, you sent this out to us a few weeks ago, right?
Yes.
To review. All right, any questions from, is everybody good with moving forward with that plan?
Great, thank you.
All right. All right, so that is all we've got for our work session tonight. So we will have a 10-minute recess and reconvene in 10 minutes in our regular meeting.
Hello. Testing 1, 2.
Sir, I was going to tell you, Alexis, our queen is here. Her mother is with her as well, in case you wanted to recognize her family that's here with her tonight. That's her mother.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Thank you.
You're welcome. So I guess I'll we'll call you up, and then council should be standing over here. So you can walk out and shake hands. And then see the mayor will be putting to the team. Awesome.
Sure. Do you want to sit right here, or do you want to grab a seat over here? Keep you close by. Yes, sir. I appreciate you being here. Our city will take all the prayers we can get. Thank you, sir. Hey, this is Pastor Mason. He's going to be doing that. He's going to be doing that.
Okay, all right, good. Hey, Bear.
o'clock. If we could get the room in order, I'll call this meeting of the Enterprise City Council to order. Let the record show that all members of the council are present with the exception of Councilman Paget. However, he is joining us electronically. He'll be unable to vote, but he is listening in. So first item on the agenda after that is our opening prayer and Pledge of Allegiance. If you would please stand with me. Pastor David Mason of the Church on the Circle will lead us in our opening prayer.
Would you pray with me, please? Heavenly Father, we come to you with open hearts, asking for your guidance during this meeting. I pray for each of the council members and city representatives that they will make the best decisions for the Enterprise community. I pray that they will seek to serve the residents of each of their districts to the best of their abilities, and that you will be represented in the decisions made here tonight. We thank you for your protection and guidance. I pray, Lord, and thank you for the citizens of Enterprise that are here gathered, Lord, that they come with good intentions. And Lord, I just thank you as the city moves forward. We do thank you, and in the name of Jesus, amen.
Amen. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Council, you should have in front of you the agenda that we discussed at the work session just prior to this meeting. I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda with the following deletions. We will be deleting ordinance 061824A and 061824B at the request of the applicants.
I move to approve the agenda of the meeting as submitted with those two deletions as submitted.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda with those deletions. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, we'll now consider the consent agenda. All matters listed within the consent agenda have been distributed to each member of the council for review, are considered to be routine, and will be enacted by one motion of the City Council with no separate discussion. If separate discussion is desired on an item, that item may be removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda by request of a member of the City Council. I'll now call for a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as presented. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. I'll now turn it over to Mayor Cooper, who will present a certificate to Alexis Crawford for Miss Full Figured Alabama Plus 2024.
They want us to come down.
First, again, I'd like to say good evening to everyone. And at this time, I would like to call up Alexis Crawford, Miss Full Figured Alabama Plus 2024. Alexis attended Hillcrest Elementary, Dolphin Junior High School, and graduated from Enterprise High School in 2013. Last month, she won the title of Miss Full Figured Alabama Plus 2024. Her platform is Reality Check, which is an acronym for recognizing and encouraging others, accept, lead, inspire, and teach youth. Alexis, we are proud to have you represent our city, and your platform highlights the importance of youth in our community. I will now present a certificate of achievement. And this certificate reads, Certificate of Achievement, presented to Alexis Crawford by the Office of the Mayor, City of Enterprise, for being crowned Mrs. Full-Figured Alabama Plus 2024 Queen. In witness thereof, I have hereto set my hand and caused the seal of this city to be afflicted. Dated this 18th day of June 2024, William E. Cooper Sr., Mayor. Congratulations, and may God richly bless you and be upon you. Mr. President, I forgot one thing. I would like to just recognize Alexis' mother. Will you please stand? I'm so sorry. Yeah.
All right, now we have a request to address the council regarding a street closure. Is Ms. Catherine Decker here? All right, I don't see her, but she did make a request on representing the Legacy Farms community to address the council to obtain a permit to close Homestead Way on Saturday, July 20th, 2024 from 12 p.m. until 8 p.m. for a community event. That request is in our packet, council. Chief, did you have a chance to review that?
I reviewed it. It's fine.
It's fine, okay.
Yes, sir.
All right, so anybody have any concerns on that? Like I said, it's down in a neighborhood, so. All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve the street closure request.
I move to approve the street closure as requested.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We'll now consider permit and street closure requests from Main Street Enterprise regarding Mardi Gras on Main events. So I'll call for a motion to approve the following permit requests as submitted. Mardi Gras on Main Golf Cart Parade, event time and dates 4 to 5 p.m., Saturday, February 1, 2025. Street closure from 3 to 5 p.m. The street closure area is East College Street, Edwards to Main, and West College Street, Main to Railroad. Then the Mardi Gras Ball, which is 5 to 9 p.m. on Saturday, February 1st, 2025. Street closures from 12 p.m. to 10 p.m. Street closure area is Railroad Street, West College to West Grubbs. Chief, you said you gave the thumbs up in the work session on that. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the request.
I move to approve the permit request as submitted.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion or questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, we'll now, next item on the agenda is privilege of the floor. This is the part of the meeting where anyone in attendance tonight who wishes to address the council may do so for 3 minutes. If there is a public hearing on the agenda for the topic you are concerned with, please wait until that public hearing opens to address the council on that matter. If they choose, staff and council will respond to your comments during the appointed times later in the meeting. Repetitive, disruptive, and disparaging comments will not be tolerated. If you are found out of order, your privileges will be revoked. Does anyone wish to address the council at this time? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to our next item on the agenda, which is staff reports. Do we have any staff reports? Shannon?
Good evening, council. I was contacted yesterday by Sessions, wanted to get the city's help to close Pittman Street from Dominic to Main. They got to redo a spur right there off the railroad track. They got to take all those tracks up, be from July 1st to July the 7th. But that's close that section of the road right there.
July 1st to the 7th.
Yes, sir.
And just Pittman Street, not Main Street.
Yeah, just Pittman from Dominic to Main Street, that's all.
All right.
And I've talked to Chief Moore, and he said be fine to close that
So
section.
everybody will be able to go around?
Yes.
Okay. Any questions of Shannon on that? All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve that request.
So moved.
Second?
I have a motion and a second to close Pittman Street from Dominic to Main from July 2nd to 7th?
1st to the 7th.
1st to 7th. All right. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Any other staff reports? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to old business, which is a public hearing and consideration of ordinance 052124. This is the Lunsford and Lunsford Farms Incorporated rezone. Number one, there'll be 3 of these. I call for a public hearing prior to consideration of ordinance 052124, providing for the rezoning of 10.06 acres of land owned by Lunsford and Lunsford Farms Incorporated from R2 medium-density single-family residential district to R4 mixed residential district located on Porter Lunsford Road on the east side of Hunters Hill Phase 1. So I'm going to explain to everybody, I won't do this before every public hearing, but give everybody the ground rules for our public hearings this evening. So, the agenda is going to look like I'm about to spell it. Then I'll spell out the ground rules. So, we'll open the public hearing, which it's now open, and then the first item is I will call the applicants forward to present the project and address any known concerns if they so choose. Obviously, there's known concerns with some of these, so if you could go ahead and touch on those. Then staff will come forward with any information they might have concerning the project. This should include information about Planning Commission recommendations and staff recommendations. Then we will allow any members of the general public to voice their support or opposition to the project, including any specific concerns they feel the council should take into consideration. Then we will allow the applicants and staff to address any of the concerns that the general public brought that they feel were not adequately addressed in their opening comments. Then we'll close the public hearing and move to council consideration of the ordinance. So some of the ground rules and general decorum that we expect is make sure everybody's aware this is a public hearing during a regular council meeting of the Enterprise City Council. We're here to conduct business in an orderly manner, and we expect the attendees to respect the proceedings. One person will speak at a time. Please give the person who is speaking the same courtesy you expect when it is your time to speak. Outbursts from the audience will not be tolerated. After you are recognized by me to speak, please come forward and speak directly into the microphone. Please make sure all comments are directed at the council, that's us up on the stage, as we will be the ones making the decision. Under no circumstances should comments be directed to anyone other than the council. Please attempt to refrain from repeating the same points that have previously been made so as to keep the proceedings as efficient as possible. And after the hearing is closed and the council deliberations begin, there will be no more comments from the audience unless a member of the council summons them to ask a question. So those are the ground rules for tonight. Like I said, the public hearing for ordinance 052124 is now open. So I will call the applicants to present the project and address any known concerns.
Good afternoon. Philip Santora, North Star Engineering. We appreciate the opportunity to come before you today. And we are requesting for rezoning of property. As you can see in your agenda, this is one of 3 steps that pieces of property that we're requesting to rezone. And this first one here, we're requesting to go from R2 to an R4 zoning. That is an increase in the zoning there. But the next two you will see are actually a decrease in the zoning. So I know there's been some concerns in the previous meetings, Planning Commission, about traffic and utilities and items like that. We realize that we'll have to come back with development plans, and we'll work through the city to abide by the rules and regulations that are in place for these zonings. As you're probably aware, the R5 zoning that we're actually removing out of this area is for apartments. It is not our intentions to do apartments, so we're asking that to be zoned to an R4.
All right, thank you. All right, now I'm going to call upon staff for any information they might have concerning the project. This should include information about Planning Commission recommendations and staff recommendations.
Council, so the first agenda item we have, it is an increase in density, but I would like to also echo what was said before, is that this is one piece of land that contained 3 different zonings on it, and that's the reason why it's broken up in the way that it is. The first agenda item that we have is an increase from R2 to R4, but the next 2 are a decrease from R5 to R4 and R5 to R2. Within these 3 rezones, the potential for apartments is completely eliminated from the parcel of land. If you look at the collective, currently you have 20.64 acres of R5 zoning, and you have 10.06 acres of R2 zoning. And then if the 3 agenda items were to be approved, you would have 20.59 acres of R4 and 10.11 acres of R2. This would be a 20.64 acres reduction in density. Estimated units currently in the R4 or the R5 is about 400, and the estimated units in the R4 would be around 200, 205.
All right, thank you, Thomas. And the Planning Commission recommendations?
The Planning Commission recommended to unanimously to approve.
Okay. Barry?
Yes, sir. Thomas and I are tag teaming this. He's looking at it from the planning side. I want to talk to you about a couple of the engineering concerns I had, but before I do that, just process-wise, land within the city limits as a zoning that's designated as current zoning for what you could use that property for, and property owners have the right to request that their property be rezoned to a different use. And it's not something the city comes up and knocks on the door and tells them, hey, you need to change your zoning. It's a request from the property owner. So what we have here in front of you is a property owner that's come to the city and requested a rezone of their current property. And I just want to make sure everybody was clear. Cumulatively, this land was currently zoned as R5, which is apartment complexes. And what that means is it's currently approved as it sits today to build a 3-story, 45-foot high apartment complex towards the back of that property. And based upon the gross maximum density that you could put on a R5 is 400 individual units on that as it currently sits. And I just want to make sure everybody's clear. If you approve all 3 of these tonight to the zoning as requested, you're taking that 400 and cutting it in half to 200. You're actually reducing the density net across this project. So what the property owner has desired, as requested, is basically to eliminate apartment complexes completely and build detached residential single-family homes. These homes fit our R4 category in our current zoning, so that they want to reduce the density. So a couple things that I have heard in the Planning Commission, and this came as a unanimous vote from the Planning Commission to recommend rezone. But during those those hearings in the Planning Commission, traffic concerns were a concern that were brought up. So we've looked at that as well, and we've made these statements in Planning Commission, but I want to make sure that I'm putting them here before the body that actually will vote on this. According to the police department there at Porter Lunsford Road and in that intersection, over the last 12 months, we've had 3 vehicle accidents over a 12-month period. So a statement was made that it was a very dangerous intersection and a lot of crashes is happening there at that intersection. And according to our police department, which recorded, there are 3 over the last 12 months. We've also had discussions between staff and ALDOT. That is an ALDOT intersection between Porter Lunsford and 167. And we are looking and working together to see what can be done to possibly improve that intersection. There's been no promises or commitments made from ALDOT to do that, but they agree that that is a very busy intersection, and we're looking at what that might look like in the future as development continues to happen for the city of Enterprise and Coffee County. A couple of other concerns that brought up were possible erosion control, worried about stormwater runoff. The next phase for this, if y'all approve this rezoning, they will submit into us construction plans, and that's one of the things that we will look at. Amongst the traffic, 2 things that we have talked to the developer about if this thing goes forward, this project goes forward, would be to, number 1, have a dedicated right turn lane into the subdivision off of Porter Lunsford. So if you're leaving the intersection coming into it, we're going to ask for them to install a dedicated right turn lane in. That gets people off of Porter Lunsford, gets them in where they can get out of the way of traffic to turn in. The second thing is we will be scrutinizing the stormwater plans very heavily to make sure that all the stormwater that is designed for that subdivision or that development is done in accordance with the city and state ordinances. So according to those 2 items, I think we will handle those in the construction plans. But the next steps will be just to make sure we're clear. If y'all were to vote forward to go forward with this, we'll get construction plans from the contractor. We'll look at those items, and that will be handled by staff. It will not come back to this body.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. All right, we will now allow any members of the general public to voice their support or opposition to the project, including any specific concerns they feel the council should take into consideration. If you could please give me a show of hands of who wants to address the council. All right. Okay, ma'am, could you come forward?
Hi, my name is Jill Workman, and I reside at 319 Lakes Drive off of Porter Lunsford Road. I am here speaking on behalf of myself and the 334 petition signers who oppose this rezoning of Porter Lunsford Road from R5 to R4. While we understand this is downsizing from R5 to R4, we feel that any high-density housing in this area will create a huge problem as the infrastructure isn't designed for a development this size in an already congested area. I spoke with Captain Daryl Griswold at the Enterprise Police Department, who confirmed that there have been 3 traffic accidents at this intersection, and including 1 death of a pedestrian in October of 2023, and there have been 6 traffic accidents at the intersection of Shellfield Road and Highway 27, all within a year. We have 2 dangerous intersections, all within 2 miles of each other. The traffic graphs from the Alabama Department of Transportation website show an increase of traffic in the amount of 65%. That's taking into account from the graph Saturday and Sunday weighed in at 30% less than the weekly traffic at that intersection from 2021 of September to May 2022. The Lakes and Hunter Hill subdivisions haven't been completed, so that will only add to the traffic once they are. Before developing this area further, the neighboring community would like an updated traffic study done, since the latest one I could find was from 2022. We are hopeful the City of Enterprise hears our concerns and will request the state of Alabama to fund a project widening Highway 27 and putting in turn lanes at both Porter Lunsford Road, Highway 27, which would help traffic flow smoothly and be a much safer intersection. If 167 cottage apartment homes, as advertised on apartment.com, are built figuring each home having 1 to 2 vehicles, Porter Lunsford Road will become a parking lot during peak traffic times. And it is my understanding that there will only be one way in and one way out of this neighborhood. Also, there has been talk about a road proposed to be built from Porter Lunsford Road to Rucker Boulevard. Has this project been approved or started yet? How long would this take? School overcrowding is also a huge infrastructure issue, and if the answer is rezoning the city needs to have a plan in place for this high-density housing to fill the need. I know many people move to this area specifically for Holly Hill Elementary School that would not be happy about the potential rezoning. We are simply asking the city to address the infrastructure issues first before creating more of a problem that takes years to fix. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And if anybody else opposes, you can stand or raise your hand to show that you don't want this either. Thank you.
All right. Sir, were you still wishing to speak?
Good evening. William Height, 321 Lakes, neighbor for Jill. I know out of respect for the council, you said don't repeat what she said, but I was the founder of the petition, so I just wanted to say that I was here. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, who else wants to speak? Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, City Council, I'm Gene Webb. I live in the Lakes. My major concern is the erosion control, the environmental impact, because the erosion control was supposed to have been put into place at the lakes. It never was. We even had a meeting with the lake subdivision owners, with the city at the old city hall, over the concerns of that erosion. Every time it rains, boom, those lakes down there fill up full of sediment. I've been told that that area is considered wetlands. So before you put 172 homes in there, we've got to take proper erosion control before you create another headache in those two lakes. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to address the council? Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. My name's Carol Boylston, and I live off of Highway 27 between Shellfield Road and Lunsford Road. My concern is I'd like to see if y'all have an update on what is going to happen at Shellfield Road and Highway 27 North. You know, we talked about this with the City Council a few years ago, and y'all did a study, and they came back and said we were going to do a roundabout, and that was over budget, so that was put away. And then they said there was going to be a traffic light, and budgeting should have already been done, but we haven't heard, because usually what is it, a 5-year out plan where they put it into the budget? We're wanting to make sure this is done before the Porter Lunsford growth, because so many families that live off of the 700 there going into Fort Novosel, they go the long way all the way to Porter Lunsford just to get to a traffic light. So we need to fix, before we have two dangerous intersections, we need to make sure we're still on target and we're not just pushing aside any of this stuff that needs to be done to protect our families. The other thing is the fuel trucks from Fort Novosel use Lunsford Road to go out to 27 North to hit Shell Field so they had fuel for their aircraft, because they consider 27 North and Shellfield Road, that intersection, too dangerous for the fuel trucks to cross. So now you're going to have fuel trucks traveling in the same of all this increased traffic on 2-lane on Lunsford. These are things we want to be proactive, not try to fix the problem after there's problems. We want everybody to see the picture now and see what can be done to keep everybody safe, because I know I don't want to lose anybody, and I know you don't either. So we're just concerned to make sure everybody is staying alert and on top of things before anything happens. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to address the council? All right, I see no one, so now we will allow the applicants to address any concerns that the general public brought up that they feel were not adequately addressed in their opening comments. Did y'all have anything that you feel you need to add?
Thank you again, sir, for the opportunity. We definitely hear the concerns about the traffic and about the utilities and things like that, and the storm drainage and those type of items. But we can assure you that as we go through the process, we will work with the city to make sure that we do all that we can do within the scope of our project.
All right, thank you. Staff, did y'all want to address any of the questions?
Council, I just wanted to reiterate that with this rezone, it is in line with our comprehensive plan. If you look at our future land use map, you see that the area that they are requesting is called out for mixed-use residential. And that can be the same for Hunters Hill, who's mixed use with single-family and townhouses, along with Cotton Creek that are single-family and townhouses. So I just wanted to let the council know that it does fit within our comprehensive plan, and just also reiterate that if this is not approved, that the maximum density over there is 400 that they could do tomorrow if they wanted to. Without necessary, with just going through us for development plans, building permits, things like that. But they would be able to do that tomorrow if they wanted to. But with the rezone, it shrinks it down to 200.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir. I'm going to start off, I misspoke earlier when I said Porter Lunsford and 167. For some reason, my mind got those two twisted. Actually 27 and Porter Lunsford earlier, just to correct that. A couple of things I wanted to mention. We talked about stormwater. The engineer typically applies ahead of the construction company for a ADEM MPDS stormwater permit. Whether he does or not, it is a requirement by the state for them to have an MPDS stormwater erosion control permit. The city will confirm that, make sure that is in place prior to the start of construction or pre-construction meeting, but we go over and beyond that. We make sure if we see that we have erosion going off the site, we actually have stop work orders that we have performed to control stormwater. Things happen, rain events happen, some of those things are out of our control, but we'll make sure that the developer, just like every other subdivision, I mean, this is no different from anything else that develops in the city, that they have good erosion control practices in place. Concerning the roundabout at 167, I could have done that in a staff report. But
you mean 27?
I'm sorry, 27 and Sheffield. I'm sorry, I guess I got 167 on the brain. That was moving forward as a roundabout, and then was determined to change that project to a signalized intersection. Those plans were redrawn by the engineer, submitted to ALDOT. ALDOT has approved those.
And those were changed, it was changed not because of us, because of ALDOT, right?
That's correct. So the plans, it came to the point of putting construction estimates together. ALDOT looked at the construction estimates, decided it was beyond their budget. They asked the engineering firm to go back and redesign that as a signalized intersection. That was an ALDOT request. Understanding this is an ALDOT intersection, just it presides inside the city limits of Enterprise. So the engineer did do that. They've submitted those plans. They have been approved. We expect that to go to a letting in November of this year, is what we're being told. And if that goes as planned, they should start construction sometime in May of next year. So we expect that intersection improvements to happen. All indications that I've had with ALDOT is that it's moving forward in their typical bidding process. So the roundabout has been scratched, and it will be a signalized intersection at this point.
All right. Any other staff comments?
Thank you.
Chief?
Since one of my staff members was mentioning it, let me, from my point of view as an accident reconstructionist for the city for years, worked many fatalities throughout the city, be very cautious using any type of just hard facts of this is how many wrecks we've had in this location. There's a lot of factors that go into wrecks that can be from the driver error to outside to weather to anything else. That doesn't necessarily mean that the intersection itself is poorly built or traffic was horrible or anything else. There has to be some sort of human input for a wreck to happen. So that's all I want to say is, although it may sound, we've had 3 wrecks there, what is the underlying factors into those 3 wrecks that caused that wreck in that location or anywhere else? That would have to be studied by that intersection and whatever else. So that's all I need. Thank you.
Any other staff comments? All right, we will now close the public hearing and move to consideration of the ordinance. The ordinance we're considering right now is 052124. I will entertain a motion to adopt that ordinance before we go into discussion.
I move to adopt ordinance 052124.
Second?
All right, there's a motion and a second to adopt ordinance 052124. Is there any further discussion? All right, let the record show that I will be abstaining from voting on this ordinance. So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We'll now move on to a public hearing and consideration of ordinance 052124A, which is the Lunsford and Lunsford Farms Incorporated Rezone 2. I call for a public hearing prior to consideration of ordinance 052124A, providing for the rezoning of 10.53 acres of land owned by Lunsford and Lunsford Farms Incorporated from R5 Multifamily Residential District to R4 Mixed Residential District located on Porter Lunsford Road on the east side of Hunters Hill Phase 1. This public hearing is now open. I'm not going to read the ground rules again. We'll have the same agenda, same rules of decorum as we just had. So this public hearing is now open. I'll call for the applicants, if you so choose, to present the project and address any known concerns. I know there's some slight nuances between each of these, so let's make sure we get that explained.
Thank you again, sir. This is what we would call the Lunsford and Lunsford rezone of 2, which is going from R5 to an R4, which is 10.53 acres, and we hereby request that it be rezoned.
Thank you. All right, does staff have any information they might have concerning the project? This should include information about Planning Commission recommendations and staff recommendations.
Council, this agenda item, this is a reduction in density from R5 multifamily residential district to R4 mixed residential district of 10.53 acres. The Planning Commission voted unanimously to approve, and staff also was in favor of this rezone.
All right, thank you.
Sir, just for the record, we still have concerns about traffic coming into this development. So the same comments I made in the previous stand, we're going to request a dedicated right turn lane in and also watch stormwater. When you go to higher density development, stormwater is always a concern. So the same comments I made before would stand for this rezone request as well.
All right, thank you. Any other staff information? All right, general public to voice their support or opposition to the project, including any specific concerns they feel the council should take into consideration. Does anyone wish to address the council? All right, seeing no one. Applicants, I assume y'all don't wish to address the council. Staff, nothing else to add? All right, I'll now close the public hearing and move to council consideration of the ordinance. All right, the ordinance we're considering is 052124A. I'll entertain a motion to adopt this ordinance.
I move to adopt the ordinance 052124A.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to adopt ordinance 052124A. Is there any further discussion?
I didn't get unmuted fast enough earlier. I just wanted to say that based on what I've heard staff say about the traffic light going to be installed at Sheffield 27, the turning lane having to be required for the new development, and the fact and the stormwater erosion control being made sure that that's going to be taken care of. That I also live off of 27 within a mile and a half of this intersection and use it frequently throughout the day at various times. And while it is busy, and I know perception is reality, so my perception is that it is it's still manageable. And so the last thing I'd like to mention is there's been multiple discussion about school zones, and I just like to remind the public that school zones are not set by the city council, but by the school board. And so we can't make our decisions based on what the school board may or may not do, even though the public would like for us to do so, because that is a completely different body that makes those decisions. And just unable to be there tonight, but just wanted to voice my support to my colleagues on the council that if I were there, I would be voting affirmative with you.
All right, thank you. If you're just joining us, Councilman Paget was unable to attend this evening. He's out of town on business, but is joining electronically. He's not able to vote because he's not here physically, but he is joining electronically. Any other discussion? All right, let the record show again that I'll be abstaining. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We'll now move on to a public hearing and consideration of ordinance 052124B, which is the Lunsford and Lunsford Farms Incorporated Rezone 3. I'll call for a public hearing prior to consideration of ordinance 052124B, providing for the rezoning of 10.11 acres of land from R5 Multifamily Residential District to R2 Medium Density Single Family Residential District, located on Port Lunsford Road on the east side of Hunters Hill Phase 1. All right, this public hearing is now open. Well, same agenda, same ground rules. I'm not going to read those. So I'll now call upon the applicants to present the project and address any known concerns.
Thank you, sir. We do request as Lunsford and Lunsford Farms Incorporated rezoning of 3, the 10.11 acres be rezoned from R5 to R2. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I said that.
Yeah,
No, I said that correctly. Yes. Thank
yes, you did. All right, staff, if you could provide any information you might have concerning the project, including information about Planning Commission recommendations and staff recommendations.
This is a net reduction in density from R5 multifamily residential district to R2 medium single family district. I would like to say that with this, if this rezone is approved, that this will remove all R5 from the area that this developer owns. So this will completely remove that R5 from that area. There won't be any potential for apartments. And it fits with the already platted Lakes 3, the Lakes Phase 3. So the Planning Commission voted unanimously to approve this, and staff also recommends approving this.
Thank you.
Just because each one of these public hearings are separated, I just want to reiterate all the concerns that I had earlier and comments I had earlier in previous public hearings tonight still stand for this rezone request as well.
All right. Thank you. Any other staff comments? All right, we'll now move on to the general public comments. So any members of the general public that wish to voice their support or opposition to the project, including any specific concerns they feel the council should take into consideration, would you please raise your hand if you wish to speak? All right, seeing none, I would assume the applicants don't wish to readdress anything. Staff, you're good? All right, we will now close the public hearing and move to council consideration of the ordinance. The specific ordinance we're considering right now is 052124B. I'll entertain a motion to adopt that ordinance.
I move to adopt ordinance 052124B.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to adopt ordinance 052124B. Is there any further discussion? Let the record show that I'll be abstaining. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We'll now move on to the next agenda item to review and consider ordinance 060424, Unity Fiber Gulf Co. LLC franchise. I call for consideration of ordinance 060424, providing to grant a non-exclusive franchise to Unity Fiber Gulf Co. LLC to construct, install, operate, and maintain a fiber-based telecommunications network in the City of Enterprise in and along city rights-of-way. The franchise agreement is for a term of 10 years with a franchise fee of 5% of the annual gross revenues. Do I hear a motion?
I move to adopt ordinance 060424.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to adopt ordinance 060424. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We'll now move on to new business. I'll introduce Planning Commission recommendations. I introduce for the record the following recommendations from the Enterprise Planning Commission. A recommendation to approve a request by Beverly Hudson and Dexter Gilly on behalf of Gertrude Saunders Family Trust for the rezoning of 5.08 acres of land from R2 Medium Density Single Family Residential District to R4 Mixed Residential District located at 101 East Drive. A recommendation to deny a request by Beverly Hudson and Dexter Gilly on behalf of Gertrude Saunders Family Trust for the annexation and zoning of 15.4 acres of land to R4 Mixed Residential District located at 101 East Drive. A recommendation to deny a request by Beverly Hudson and Dexter Gilly on behalf of Gertrude Saunders Family Trust for the rezoning of 18.14 acres of land from R2 Medium Density Single Family Residential District to R4 Mixed Residential District located at 101 East Drive. I now introduce ordinance 061824, the Saunders Family Trust Rezone 1. I introduce for the ordinance 061824, providing for the rezoning of 5.08 acres of land owned by Gertrude Saunders Family Trust from R2 Medium Density Single Family Residential District to R4 Mixed Residential District located at 101 East Drive. I also call for a public hearing to be held at the regular meeting scheduled for July 16, 2024. Next item on the agenda is to review and consider resolution 061824 to amend the employee classification plan for athletic supervisor. I introduce and call for consideration of resolution 061824, providing for an amendment to ordinance 101601, which establishes the employee classification plan salary schedule. The amendment calls for the deletion of the position of gym supervisor, pay grade 9, and the creation of the position of athletic supervisor, pay grade 17. Do I hear a motion?
I move to adopt resolution 061824.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to adopt resolution 061824. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We'll now review and consider resolution 061824A, considering the granting of additional funds for the Public Building Authority. I introduce and call for consideration of resolution 061824A, amending resolution 070523 and approving the granting of additional funds of up to $400,000 to the Public Building Authority of the City of Enterprise to cause necessary renovations to City Hall, and will approve and authorize the execution of an amended agreement. Do I hear a motion?
I move to adopt resolution 061824A.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to adopt resolution 061824A. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We'll now we'll now review and consider resolution 061824B for the granting of funds to the ID board. I introduce and call for consideration of resolution 061824B, providing to approve the granting of funds of up to $3,050,000 to the Industrial Development Board of the City of Enterprise to assist with the necessary match required for the Alabama Site Evaluation and Economic Development Strategies, which SEEDS Development and Acquisition Grant related to the purchase of approximately 296 acres of land known or to be known as Enterprise Commerce Park. Do I hear a motion?
Move to adopt resolution 061824B.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to adopt Resolution 061824B. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We will now review and consider Resolution 061824C, the FY 2024 budget amendments. I introduce and call for consideration of Resolution 061824C, providing to approve certain amendments to the FY 2024 budget. Do I hear a motion?
I move to adopt Resolution 061824C.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to adopt Resolution 061824C. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We will now consider authorizing the mayor to execute trademark sublicense agreement for Main Street, Alabama. I call for a motion to authorize the mayor to execute a trademark sublicense agreement with Main Street, Alabama to provide Main Street Enterprise with certain rights to use the National Main Street Center Incorporated's name and trademarks. Do I hear a motion?
I make a motion to authorize the mayor to execute the agreement as submitted.
Second.
All right, for motion and second, is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We now consider authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement with Tyler Technologies regarding human resources software system. I call for a motion to authorize the mayor to execute an agreement with Tyler Technologies for the installation, maintenance, and technical support of a computer software system for human resources. Do I hear a motion?
I move to authorize the mayor to execute the agreement as submitted.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to authorize the mayor to execute the agreement as submitted. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We'll now consider authorizing the police chief to execute an agreement with Pike Regional Child Advocacy Center. I call for a motion to authorize the police chief to execute an agreement on behalf of the Enterprise Police Department with Pike Regional Child Advocacy Center to formalize the terms under the PRCAC and partnering agencies operate and the coordination of services among them. Do I hear a motion?
I move to authorize the police chief to execute the agreement as submitted.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to authorize the police chief to execute the agreement as submitted. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We now consider a request for permission to resurface the tennis courts at Parks and Recreation at Donaldson Park. I introduce and call for consideration of a request from Billy Powell, Director of Community Services and Recreation, to approve the resurfacing of 6 courts at Donaldson Park by American Tennis Courts Incorporated for $56,810. The resurfacing is required every 5 years for warranty purposes and is an FY 2024 budgeted item. Do I hear a motion?
Move to approve the request as submitted.
Second.
All right, a motion and a second to approve the request as submitted. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We will now consider a request for permission to purchase equipment for Parks and Recreation regarding an electric scissor. I introduce and call for consideration of a request from Billy Powell, Director of Community Services and Recreation, to purchase a Skyjack 40-foot electric scissor from Thompson Rents through the Sourcewell Purchasing Program for $34,595. The equipment is a budgeted item in the FY 2024 budget. Do I hear a motion?
Move to approve the purchase request as submitted.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the purchase request as submitted. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We will now consider a request to seek annual bids. I introduce and call for consideration of requests from City Engineer, Public Works Director Barry Mott to seek bids for the following services: HVAC preventative maintenance citywide, pest control services citywide, and veterinary services for animal control at the Enterprise Police Department. Do I hear a motion?
I move to approve the request to seek bids as submitted.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the request to seek bids as submitted. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Mayor, do you have a report for us?
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to remind everyone that all City of Enterprise offices will be closed tomorrow, June 19th, in observance of Juneteenth holiday. Our offices will reopen at 7:30 a.m. Thursday morning. Speaking of Juneteenth, the annual parade throughout downtown Enterprise this Saturday was a success. It was hot, but thanks to the support from volunteers and the first responders, everyone stayed hydrated and we all had a wonderful time. Mark your calendars for June 29th for the Watermelon Day at the Farmers Market. This annual event is perfect for all ages and is a great way to support our local farmers and vendors. I would like to thank our citizens for attending tonight's City Council meeting. It is wonderful to see so many invested in our city business. I want to encourage everyone to follow the city on Facebook to stay up to date with the current events and go to check out our website, enterpriseal.gov, for more information. Thank you, Mr. President.
Ms. Rich?
I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight, taking part in the process as we handled our business of the rezones tonight. And thank you, staff, for your hard work that you always do. And you all have a good night.
Mr. Goolsbee?
I would like to thank everybody for coming tonight also. I don't think the public was properly informed about these changes to the Lunsford property immediately when all this came up. I personally didn't understand it to begin with, but I feel like the decisions we made tonight were the best for the public. When you're reducing the density from 427 units to 203 units, it's less traffic, less people, so I hope everyone understands it now. Thank you for coming tonight.
All right. Mr. Padgett, are you with us? Would you wish to say anything?
Yes, I'd like to echo what Mr. Goolsbee just said as well. I think there was a lot of misinformation because I first felt like I didn't understand it very well either. And after speaking extensively to staff and researching it myself and speaking to the developers, I felt much better about the project. So time will tell, but I think we made the right decision tonight. I'd also like to thank Jeremy Nagy with assistance on getting me on this meeting tonight, joining you guys from Oklahoma. Have a good night.
Mr. Johnson?
Yeah, thank you everyone for coming. And I do thank their citizens that come out. I would like to see these seats filled every time we have a council meeting. It'd be great to hear from our folks. And thank you for those that are watching it on YouTube tonight. One public service announcement, please make sure when you clean up your yards, the tree limbs, all that kind of stuff, put it on your yard, not out in the street. I almost saw a small little fender bender trying to avoid several bags in a huge tree that was out in the middle of the street. But the other thing too is our comprehension plan is on our city site. If you can't find it, please call me, email me or whatever, and I'll send it to you. I have sent that out to several folks when they say, what's going on around the city? And this council took great pains and a lot of time with the staff. And again, thank you, staff, for all the time and effort that you put in to research those things. And like Greg, I'll echo too that, yeah, I don't come up here with a blank mind. I research everything. That's probably the military background of me. But I'll research it to death so I can make a very informed decision for every citizen within the enterprise. So let me know if you need a comprehension plan. I'll get it to you. All right. Thank you.
All right. Yeah, ditto what everybody said. Thank everyone for coming. I will say that this council does take our responsibility to improve traffic safety, serious. Specifically in that area, which is my district. I live out that side of town, like Greg, and I drive through that intersection plus the other intersection that Ms. Boylston brought up tonight at 27 and Shellfield. While this council has been, since we were elected in 2020, there's been a lot of improvements in the area and certainly planned. Porter Lunsford Road was widened recently. There hadn't always been a light at Porter Lunsford Road. It wasn't that long ago that light was added. So, of course, we're getting a signal at Shellfield Road and 27. I remember when I think you came and spoke to us when the Dollar General was getting, and we pledged to you then that we would try our hardest to to get improvements made there, whether the Dollar General comes or not. And it was dangerous before the Dollar General was there. It's dangerous since the Dollar General's been there. And I think we have lived up to our pledges there. It never happens fast enough. Hopefully by the end of next year, that light will be there. And hopefully it does improve the safety there. And, I'll go ahead and go out on a limb and say, I think we're responsible for doing the same thing at this intersection we've discussed tonight. I've seen improvements are being made up at this intersection at Salem Road and 167 North that we've been talking about since I got on the council. Some other things were mentioned tonight, such as connector roads to help with congestion. All those things are constantly talked about in our council meetings. They're mentioned in our comprehensive plan. So these things are top of mind, absolutely. And I do think this is a pro-growth council, but it's not a growth at all costs council either. We recognize that it needs to be measured growth at a comfortable rate, at a pace that we feel we can handle it. And I am confident that we are talking about the things that need to be talked about. Never happens fast enough, and sometimes things get worse before they get better, but we are progressing. So with that, we will stand adjourned until 4 p.m., which note that in your notes, 4 p.m. Tuesday, July 2nd for City Council work session, immediately following 6 o'clock regular meeting in this room. Have a good week. Did y'all sign all those?
Yes.
All right, so.
That's